Santos. Welcome to Quantum Leap Television once again and to the Truth Hour. How are you?
Very well, thank you. Yourself?
Very well. Well, I'm okay, but what's going on around in our beautiful world is it's not that good. You know, I was just commenting with some friends about the situation in Greece and what's going on there with the austerity measurements that the government has just signed in, accepting that 130 something billion dollars in loans from the European banks, mainly Germany. And basically the poor Greek people are just going to suffer, feel the wrath of that, because obviously they're going to cut down their minimum wages, longer hours. They're going to increase their pricing and all these things. And I wonder why are the Greek people continue to take this. I know they're rioting on the streets. I was watching some videos in RT and various other news sources that the people have taken it to the streets, but they're breaking windows, they're destroying property, but they're not removing the cancer. And the cancer is the politicians who are agreeing to these bankers, and are eventually they're the ones who are going to suffer. So I don't know. In Australia, I know there's a big Greek population. Is that correct, Santos?
Yeah, yeah. This is exactly what's going on. The system is absolutely putrid, and the banking system was designed to be able to expand, make bubbles, and then steal wealth from the middle class and steal wealth from anyone stupid enough to be exposed, I guess. But when you look at countries like Greece and Italy and all these European countries that are going down, see, the root of the cause of all of these illnesses, Johnny, is the system that was set up over the last hundreds and hundreds of years by Rome. And in particular, the power families of Rome, the black nobility, the remnants of the old empire. They're still running the show. The Julian and the Flavian and the Constantine family, the Piso family. These are the four major families from Rome, from Europe, basically, that run the show still today. Is based on slavery, Roman slavery. And proof of that is when you get a birth certificate, you're actually getting a warehouse document for the delivery of a new child, which that birth certificate will be turned into a bond, securitized, turned into a bond, floated on the market for the banksters. So we are just chattel. See, everyone in Greece, everyone in Europe, everyone around the world that has this birth certificate, thinking that they are citizens of their own country. No, they're not. They're citizens of the biggest corporation in the world, which is the Vatican, which is controlled by the elites. Now, what do they do with those bonds? And why are we bonded? Why are we slaves? Bond means slaves. Slave, doesn't it? A bondsman. If you're a bondsman, you're a slave. Well, your security is a bond. Your birth certificate is a bond. Now, what they do with that is criminal, because it's for fraud, to steal your wealth. In fact, all of our bonds have generated billions of dollars for the banksters. My bond at my age, 48, would probably be worth about $1.2 billion. That's how much the banks have benefited from me.
Mm-hmm. Santos, one second. You're getting stuck. Your image has got stuck. Maybe you can move your camera, because I can hear you clearly. We can hear you clearly, but your image got stuck.
Okay.
Perhaps you can. Why don't I take a quick break, and then we'll get back to you, so see if you can, because I want the people to see you. We'll be right back with more Santos Bonacci here at the Truth Hour. We'll be right back. Okay, so we have Santos back on the line. We want to make sure that we see you, Santos, so we don't just hear the audio, because it's important that our audience also sees your expressions and the message that you're transmitting. Okay, so Santos, so you were telling us about the birth certificate and the bond. Explain now. I want you to explain to the folks that are new to these topics. I mean, you lecture on this heavily to a lot of people who are aware of this. See, for the first time, someone they hears this, the first thing they're going to say is this guy crazy? What is he talking about? I have a birth certificate. This is the way I identify myself. This is how I get a passport. This is how I know I'm a citizen of the United States, or I'm a citizen of Australia. So can you clarify this for our audience that are not too aware of what this means, and they don't think that we're just crazy, because this is not crazy. I mean, it sounds crazy because it's so evil that sounds crazy. So can you please clarify that again, please?
Yeah. When we're born in hospital, we're born in a ward. You see, now, have you heard of a prison ward? Yeah. Have you heard of ward of the state? Yeah, that means you're under the state's, you are an incompetent person under the care of the state. That's why they give us welfare. It's basically for the incompetents who don't have any money and need, to feed off the government. But what they don't tell you, I mean, this is the incompetence in their system. I'm not calling unemployed people incompetent. Of course, it's their system is so cruel and merciless. Excuse me. When they issue you a birth certificate and your parents sign your name away, now parents don't question what's going on. What have I just done? I've just told the government that I have a new child, and I've registered that child with the government because I believe my child will grow up and inherit many, many of the benefits. You see, parents must be thinking there must be a benefit, otherwise they would never would put their child into slavery, would they? But you see, what happens when you register a birth certificate is you're entering into a contract with the state, and you're supposed to have benefits. But when you look at the benefits that you do get, like welfare and things like that, and the money that they take by floating your birth certificate as a security on the stock market, the comparison, there's no comparison. The benefits go all their way by billions of dollars. The little scraps that we get in terms of benefits, they're not benefits at all. That's a big handicap. It's a system devised by Rome to defraud humanity, keep them in control, and keep them enslaved. This is why I'm teaching to lose the name, because by returning the birth certificate to the Crown, and you tell them of their fraud, this is my proof that I returned my birth certificate and I am out of the system. By doing such a thing, you collapse the bond too, and the banksters lose about $1 billion. Therefore, the system will collapse sooner because it was designed to collapse anyway.
$1 billion? You mean I'm worth $1 billion in the stock market?
Yeah. Or check out. You can work this out by calculating the GDP of your country and how many people, the population of your country. Ecuador is probably not as rich as Australia, I would say. So you're probably 900 million, 800 million, or something like that.
Okay, Santos. That sounds funny, but it's the truth. I mean, to think that
it sounds ridiculous, but we've all been enslaved. The whole world is a slave farm. It's a slave farm, and everybody that's working has actually got a job, an occupation. because the whole world is occupied. We all have an occupation.
That's correct.
We're slaves on the farm, like Bob Dylan sang, Maggie's farm.
Yeah, I mean, this is a classic example of this. Is the income tax in the United States. I don't know how it's in Australia, but in the United States, there was a documentary done by Aaron Russo, who all of a sudden, a few months after that he did this documentary, American Freedom to Fascism, he suddenly developed stomach cancer and he died. But basically, he was bringing up the argument that there is no tax, there is no federal income tax on the wages of an average worker. See, there is no law in the Constitution of the United States that says that an individual has to pay an income tax out of his labor. Corporations is another thing. There is a law for that. So, I try to explain this to people, and being that my background was accounting, and specifically in taxes, I would see this fraud every day. And people, for example, a person who made maybe $20,000 a year, which is pretty low in the United States. It's a factory worker that makes $200 a week. Maybe down here in South America, it's a lot of money, but in the States, it's not. It's pretty poor. When they would come and do their income taxes, they had 2 kids. They didn't own a home. They made $20,000. They took out of their paycheck about $2,500 in just federal income tax, not state, not FICA, not Social Security. That totaled to about 30, almost 40% of their wages. Okay, just talking about federal income, it was about $2,000 on that amount. Now, they would get a refund of about $4,000, and they thought, wow, the system is great. I'm getting $4,000 back, but they couldn't see the picture that, number one, you're making $20,000, which is nothing. You have 2 kids. You have to pay all this rent, all this money, yet they would get confused. The system would confuse them to think that. But then you would have someone else who is single and is making $60,000, and they took about $19,000 of federal income tax, and those people were hoping that they would get at least $1,500 back, And then it's like, as long as you can get me back $1,500, I'll be happy. But I would say they just took $19,000 out of your paycheck. That's a lot of money. That's not including, as I said, the state tax, the FICA, the Social Security, and God knows other taxes. But it's a system that's so crazy, yet it confuses the people. So this is why I'm asking you, Santos, to clarify as much as you can with the birth certificate and this fraud that they've done on the world, actually, Mainly I speak from the U.S. I'm not too familiar yet with the stuff here in Ecuador, but I'm sure that it's the same system here. We have our IDs and everything are with capital letters and, the same shenanigans. So, when you I want you to clarify that a little bit more for folks, because I think they're finally getting it, but yet it still sounds too crazy to believe this.
Yeah. Look, I would suggest to the listeners to have a look at my 1-hour video on law, Reclaiming Dominion, a History. That's what it's called. Law, Reclaiming Dominion, a History. It's just 1 hour on my YouTube site, and that's called Mr. Astrotheology. Now, on there you will learn how the Catholic Church did this over the past 1,000 years. The Roman system has been around solidly for 2,000 years, annexing countries and land grabbing land all over the planet. See, people don't realize when the Americas were conquered, were taken, the entities that went over, you see, it wasn't just individuals going over like Captain Cook and Christopher Columbus and a bunch of men. No. It was societies like the Dominicans, and it was corporate entities. The Vatican was sending over its people to establish its colonies and companies and states. That's why North America is run by the Vatican. The US is a Vatican corporation. It's a corporation. Yeah, it's one of the biggest Vatican corporations there is. when you look at Congress, you see the big American flag, and in Congress, and then you'll see the big fasci of Rome standing, the two big Roman fasci standing next to that big flag that stands behind the speaker in Congress, you know. So when Barack Obama is standing in front of that military admiralty law flag, they're telling you this is Rome's corporation, because they always display their symbols and insignia and logos. They always do. Yeah, you know, they always have their prominent logos, and all of the logos of America, of United States, are Vatican logos.
Santos,
now,
but is it Vatican or is it English? Because there's a lot of information that says that the American corporation is run by the English, but you're saying that it is the Vatican who runs the show. Who is it?
Stuff. The Crown, the Commonwealth, the Holy See. The whole three of them, they're the Triple Crowns. They belong to Rome. The whole lot belongs to Rome. Regardless of the power that the Crown has and the Bar Society and, you know, the Commonwealth and the Trilateralists and the Bilderbergers, in the end, the people who control the biggest corporation are the power elite of Rome. Now, that's not, you know, just Roman families. A lot of these came from other parts of Europe, you know. There's a lot of writers who have exposed the fact that it's one big sort of a European family, you know. You'll find that the Rothschilds are related to the Habsburgs, related to the Guelphs and the Saxe-Coburg-Gothas, you know, and all of these big, you know, the big names in Europe, you know, the Stuarts and the Tudors and the Plantagenets and all of these big families. Don't for one moment think that Berlusconi and Cameron Brown and George Bush and all of these people, don't for one moment think that they came up from you know, common people out there and became presidents and kings, etc. No. These are all cousins. It's provable. They're all cousins. Everyone who's ever ruled, even in Australia, we still have descendants of Captain Cook and Captain Bligh running the country. The Premier of Queensland is Anna Bligh. Well, the first person to put an Admiralty flag on this country 40 years ago was a Bligh. They're still running the country. They're still looting it. They're looting countries left, right and centre. All they do is go around looting the treasuries of all the countries in the world with their artificial IMF Bank and World Bank. It's all Vatican controlled. The sooner we crash, which it will, the better. Now, I've done my part. I've crashed the system by $1 billion. I have deprived their monstrous unconscious machinery of $1 billion. One day in the future, in 10 years' time, I will be able to say I got out of the system completely, and I'll be proud of that. But there will be a lot of people who will probably regret the fact that they supported the military-industrial complex because they wanted one of these things.
Mm-hmm. Santos, but what happens now? First of all, you got to give us information how to go about getting that information that you talk about, how to collapse the bond and retake your dominion, because there's a lot of pages that are, you know, freemen or sovereign groups who personally I think, you know, they're going about it the wrong way. This is my opinion, though. You know, they don't want to. It's sort of like they don't want to make it easier for you. You know, it's like, no, you go do the research, which up to a point I understand. You know, because that way you understand the whole system, right? But you know, damn, if you have a form done already, can you maybe make it easier for me so I can see it, look at it, and see how it works then? Because I don't know, but this is what I've been finding out, that sort of like they don't want to give you all the answers. I mean, you know, we're at a point where everything has accelerated, right? Obviously, the kids who are born today, you know, they're born with you know, they know how to work a Mac machine and Microsoft and so forth, as opposed to when you and I were children. You know, I didn't even know how to turn on a computer. So I mean, the whole sense of evolution, it's speeding up. So I mean, how can we get that information? And once we have that information, how to collapse the bond, right? What do you do next? Because that's like a friend of mine who's a therapist. She works with children, and the first thing that she tells them, with children that they're showing signs of autism, so you got to cut all the dairy products. You got to cut the milk because it's contaminated. And the response is, well, what do I give my child if he can't drink milk? So the question is, once you do this, what do you do now? That you don't belong to the system and you don't have a birth certificate. Well, how do you go about this without, getting into a panic and say, well, okay, well, what do I do then? My son is a nobody. He doesn't belong to anything. It's just like the people who the atheists, that tell people, well, I don't believe in God, and the people just can't understand that. They're like, well, how can you not believe in something? But wait a minute, why do I have to believe in something? So what do you do after you collapse the bond? How do we tell people what to do?
Your first question, do I have the document? Yes, I do. And anyone can